Cool, cool. I think, maybe we are digressing a little bit from the topic, and, I totally get this part about, like this being a very, very intuitive process. But for us, is it okay if I can ask you some questions, and maybe,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
yeah? So
Yeah.
one of them is like, how do you record ideas? Like, there's so many side projects you have worked on. So I'm sure you must be having some kind of a notebook or something, like a Trello board or something. Is
Trello
that
board.
the
I have
part?
a Trello board. It's
Okay.
called the idea board because
Okay.
it has ideas, I guess. And I keep lists on the board. So essentially, like one is like just when I get the idea. The second one is okay, maybe this makes sense. And the third one is okay, this does make sense. And then I move it to the fourth one once I start working on it. There's also one on the extreme left, which is like this already exists. So the purpose of having it on there is maybe I don't know if I come up with something to make it better than the one that already exists or so on.
Mm-hmm.
I can actually like share my screen and show the board if you would like.
Yeah. I think you could, do that. But I'd like to, Saurav and Mahesh also to jump in. Like, do you have any places where you record your ideas? Because there's inspiration coming in, at different moments of time, but maybe you don't have the time at then and there to work on it, right? So, is there a process to this madness? Like, trying to figure. Saurav?
I used to at one time. I don't anymore. I generally go and buy like lots of domains whenever an idea strikes me. So a year later, when it's time to renew it, I that's when I check whether it's worth renewing it if I'm going to do something on it or if I let it expire. So I think that is like a sort of a weird way of like me tracking it. But I don't actually like
Okay.
jot it down anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, which is fair, as in Mahesh, as in do you have something? You are also, pretty much.
Yeah, uh, actually, I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum. I come up with lots of ideas, I start a lot of things, but very few of them ever reach any production, or even for personal use, very few of them actually become ready. But I do have a Trello board. I typically always carry a pen and paper with me wherever I am, and I try to jot things down. Sometimes I copy them into my Trello board. The very grand project that I have been talking about for a while. One part of that has an idea board so that I can have an easy way to record my ideas and stuff on mobile, but it just does not exist yet. For now, Trello is good enough.
Yeah, I think that's
Mahesh,
helpful.
you are
Yeah.
audible. Mahesh wasn't audible, like too low.
I think
Were you
yeah,
guys able to hear it?
yeah, I think so. Like it was pretty okay until
It was
unless. Okay,
little low even on my end.
okay. So Mahesh, maybe you could just speak a little bit louder. Yeah.
Yeah, how is this? I think that's due to my microphone.
Okay. This is much better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good now.
Okay. So I'm saying that I have a Trello board. I sometimes use it, and otherwise I carry a piece of pen and paper. I jot things down. I have filled lots of pages with lots of ideas, but I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum compared to, let's say, Faraz, because I have lots of ideas. I sometimes even make rudimentary plans on where to start, what to do, but very few of them actually reach a usable stage, production stage. There's only ever one product I ever shipped, and that was also completely by accident back when I did not know what a side project even was. So yeah, I think, and I'm trying to build. Again, one of my side projects is actually something that allows me to track my ideas on side projects, but it just does not exist yet. Until that's ready, I'll just use Trello.
Yeah, no worries, Mahesh. I think we're all, struggling here. So that's perfectly okay. So now, the next step is which idea, how do you choose which idea to ship? So let's say you have, 50 ideas, or let's say 10 ideas, and now you have a free weekend and you want to, maybe you feel that you could, do something productive. So how do you choose which one to? Is it very intuitive, or do you, like have some factors which help you to? So for us, do you want to maybe, take that first?
More often than not, it's the one I need the quickest. Like I was apartment hunting, so I needed that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And often, like, if it's a smallish project, it depends on which one is more fun to build. Like, if you remember, I built that dry day thing, which
Right, right.
so I actually had to use Mailchimp for one of my other projects, and I'd never used Mailchimp before, and that was an opportunity to use Mailchimp. So I guess something that excites me technically, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it really, it's a few factors, but more often than not, it's what I need at the moment.
Okay, so
Because
it's
I've
like a
never
combination of, like whether it's technically challenging to you, like, it shouldn't be just
huh,
another CRUD app, right? That's
yes, like
the,
fun to
yeah,
build essentially.
it should be fun to build. And the other one is like, how badly you need this, because you're kind of scratching your own itch. So you're trying to, like, otherwise, why would you, spend your weekend, looking at
Exactly.
the computer, right? So that makes total sense. Sort of, do you have anything to add to that? Anything, any different way of maybe, like choosing and?
Yeah, so like, I mean, right now, so there are two things which I like. I focus on. Like there are like lots of ideas, but like there are two things which I really focus on. One is like what is my sort of unfair advantage towards executing the project. So I tend to focus on that now more or less. Like
Mm-hmm.
for the IVR thing for my mom's a doc. She had this problem, and I guessed that like she has like 50, 100 friends who are doctors in Pune. So I thought if I build it for her, there would be like lots of people I could directly get access to, which would also need it. So that's an unfair advantage for me because not everybody's moms are doctors who have this problem. So like I felt that. Now that I have a 5-year-old whom I'm trying to teach reading, I feel that's my unfair advantage that I have a user
Mm.
base at home can test this software on. So I'm trying to put it from that angle, so like I can sort of test and reiterate and like launch it. So they are
Wow.
the two things. Yeah.
That's a good point. I think, like it should be something which uh which uniquely, like, like no other person is kind of, like qualified, I would say, or maybe like, they necessarily don't have the motivation, maybe, like just because they don't have the right context. So that could be one of the factors in, choosing this. Now that done, how do you scope the product? That's the next piece of the puzzle. Like, now you know that, okay, you want to build. So for us, you knew that, okay, you wanted to, build the FPL bot, but then how can you, like scope scope the product, the features, and like which do you see? Is there some constraints that you put on yourself? Is
So
there some?
even like right now, I was actually thinking about this today. I even had a call with a friend of mine about this. Like right now, I'm struggling with, let's say, for example, there are 4 features already, and I'm working on one right now, which I plan to add today. I do intend to at some point monetize this. So like what I was brainstorming for was like what features should be the, like a part of the premium experience versus what should be a part of like the free version of the bot. So I guess it's a learn as you go thing, right? You have to figure out the value. What, like if you're especially building something for someone else, you have to figure out how they would find value in it as opposed to what's valuable to you. So if, and for me, like Saurabh was saying about the unfair advantage, I play FPL and I play it very actively. Like, so I know like what people look for and what would be the word for it. Like, I don't know, people who are like I can't think of the word, but not casual players, right? People who take this game seriously and so on. So I'm actually in the process of actively talking to users someone added me on like the Telegram group for the subreddit. So
Nice.
consistently like messaging over there and asking like what features would you like to see, what do you think is good, what do you think is bad, and so on.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So is there like, maybe time constraints that you put, or you're like, like just maybe because I've you don't want the side project to be going on for too long, like before you ship it, right? So is that sometimes on the back of your mind when you try to think about the features like the MVP thing, as in, or you
So that
don't
was an
necessarily,
issue.
yeah.
That was an issue with me earlier when I was building travel as an Indian. I could have shipped it in 1 week, but I took
Mm-hmm.
1 month to ship it. Like, and those were like such tiny things ki heading kaun sa color hona chahiye, or like, oh, is this what should be in the first fold, and so on. And those things, like let's say I don't have the search bar in the first fold. If a user feels like the search bar isn't in the first fold and it should be, they'll simply communicate it with me, right? If I constantly keep communicating with people who are using my product. So like with the bot, I think I started building it and I had at least 5 people looking at it within 1 hour. And while
Nice.
this might not be possible for a website, you should at least like actively try to do it, where within at least 1 week, I think people should see, like someone other than you should see it and say, like yes I yes I because it's very easy to get attached and want to make something close to perfect before you launch it.
So I would kind of say that don't aim for perfection and try to maybe come up with a version in, let's say, 1 week time. Like
Yep,
what's the,
like an alpha.
like an alpha thing, and
Yeah.
try to release it maybe to a close group. It doesn't need to be out there on Twitter per se,
Yeah,
but
just your friends or
group
people who
of
you think
friends,
are
yeah,
potential users.
yeah, who would appreciate. That's a good point.
Yeah,
My
like for example, with travel as an Indian, it wouldn't make sense to like show it to people who are not into traveling at all, right?
Right.
Irrespective of how close you are to them. So just people who you think are potential users.
Hmm. So Mahesh, do you have any thoughts on this, as in like scoping the side project thing? Do you have anything to add to this?
Not really. Since I haven't really shipped many ones, I don't have much to add on this point.
Yeah, but you might have like maybe spec'd it out, or have you maybe thought about
Yeah, I actually have a few thoughts on slightly tangential issue. One is that, especially when we are excited by new technology, sometimes we pair an idea with a technology that we want to try out, and
Mm,
we might stick to it even when it's not a good idea to do that. Like, uh, the jot and search, I think 2 weeks ago I wrote these two tiny little scripts to capture my ideas when I'm on my laptop. Extremely beautiful. Right now it's just 10-15 lines of shell script. My next iteration, I plan to do it in Rust, and it has been sitting there since 2 weeks because I haven't gotten around to doing it. If I instead it and say, all right, anything works, Python, JS, whatever, I would have it in under an hour. The next version with a minimal, fuzzy searching and minimal terminal user interface will be out in an hour. Like, it's as simple as that. So sometimes we hold ourselves back, probably unwittingly, by marrying ourselves to some choices that we made early on that probably don't matter when it comes to shipping. Like, we
yeah,
need to differentiate projects we are doing for fun and learning and versus projects we are doing to ship. So if this is a project that is supposed to be shipped, I should have gotten it out the next iteration on the same day. Not just the
yeah,
language, the tools, technologies, frameworks, the entire ecosystem essentially. Sometimes, like, it's not rare, I think, to if we want to try out something new, the best we can think of is let's build something with it, because that's the only practical way to understand and explore things. And also it's a nice little excuse to just try new things out.
Yeah,
We need to
yeah.
be mindful of what effects it has.
Cool. I think that's a fair point. Sort of anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, I completely second that. There have been like so many times that I have been stuck trying to do something right. For example, like with this IVR thing, there's this extremely complicated piece of code in which I was trying to do like time frame overlaps. Like for stuff like oh, what if she's like gone in the morning but comes in the evening for 2 hours? How will the system calculate the time that she's there? And I spent like almost a week trying to like find the algorithm and get it to work correctly. And then my wife said, like, how does it matter? Like, you can hack it in the back. So I then changed my data model to make it quite stupid. Like the data model is absolutely stupid, right? But it works without me having to spend a week on it, and I could launch it. So I totally like agree with that. Just keep it non-open sourced and do like stuff in the back to get it to work. Till the point in time it actually starts bugging you, then you can spend time fixing it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally agree with it.
Cool. I think we'll have to, take a quick detour because the time is finishing for the, Zoom call. So we'll join in again, and I think we have one question still left, which is how do you make the time for it? And maybe like when we'll come back, we'll discuss this. So yeah,
Same link,
that's
right?
yeah, same link. We just so Paresh, we just disconnect and join in again. Yeah.
You save the chat history, right? Whatever you type in the chat.
I think they will be saved by default.
No, no, they are lost. I mean, unless you are keeping track of them somewhere else, they are usually lost.
Yeah.
Lots of tools, like they have lots of things that are very easy to automate that just don't exist yet. My sister is a doctor, and I already have like a laundry list of ideas that I can do to help. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I think they are the last people to get on the tech bandwagon. Like I mean,
Yep.
recently I
Even
was doing
in
something. Yeah.
even in the US, like there's a lot of money being put into health-based products in tech because like the market is there for it, and uh, they aren't really technologically advanced. So
Cool. So Mahesh, I think you were asking about the chat history, right? So generally it's saved if I record the meeting. If I don't record, then I don't have any record. So this time like recording this, so it should be there. Let
Okay,
me know
okay.
if in if you require that. I generally keep it to myself.
Actually,
Yeah.
it would be a good idea to just send the chat history on Slack, either announcements or
Yeah,
right.
like a show notes kind of a thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll do that, and let's just maybe wait for 2 more minutes before we get back. Hmm.
also, small side note, like if you guys haven't checked out Glitch, it's a very nice tool to check out.
Can you share the link? As in-
Yeah, it's just glitch.com. It's essentially like they give you a container online, so you
Okay.
don't need to deploy anything. You just code and your project is live.
Whoa. It's crazy. I think this
Like
is the
that's what I've
guy. Yeah, this is the guy who was part of Twitter, right? Anil Dash or something.
yeah.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
what I've used for the bot, so I don't need to deploy anything. Like I just edit code and it's reflected within seconds.
yeah. I've heard about this. This like it's crazy, man. There's going to be more apps than people. I think
Yeah.
this already is maybe. It's like so I think we had 7, but we are 6, so we could start. Maybe Paresh will join in if he can. So I think now we're like slowly getting into, so we discussed about the ideation part. We discussed a little about how to maybe get about the scoping thing, like choosing what features to work on and what. And now maybe we could figure out how do you make the time to even do this, because it's like a big deal now, like like shipping something. Like people generally feel like when I ship something, people feel like, wow man, how do you even, that's the first question that comes to me. So for us, are your friends are also asking you this? How do you get the time? Are you even sleeping or not?
No, so I think I personally do it in a very unhealthy way, where if I fall upon an idea, I don't sleep,
Whoa.
which is not very nice. But I guess these days the time itself gets decided based on how much work I have in my actual full time job. So if like yesterday I had a lot of work, so I didn't release any features. But today I don't have much until like we have a meeting at like 5 p.m. my time, which is like in an hour. So that's when we'll decide what needs to be done and like stuff. So I have time until then, so I might push something before that. But yeah, mostly it depends on how much work I have to do. Otherwise, it's just weekends if I have a lot of work. But then
Hmm.
even in the weekends, you have to strike a balance, right? Otherwise, you'll burn out.
Yeah, like I've come across a tweet which said that if you give 1 hour every day, it's kind of like equivalent to almost 30 30 days, like 30 hours in a month, which is a lot of time actually, like when you think about it. But then the problem as in which I face is context switching, like like when I'm working on a project.
Yeah.
So then trying to context switch to a side project every day would be difficult. So have you found maybe more joy in like maybe keeping Saturdays for doing this, or that doesn't really help, like keeping one day of the week? Or
I mean, the 1 hour thing I don't think would ever work for me. Like you said, context switching, getting in the zone, and so on. So like I don't move to a different thing unless I can sit down for 3 to 4 hours,
right.
because like I guess that's just how I function. So it takes time to figure out like it these days, man. It takes 10 minutes to get all the tools open, like browser mein khodo, then run your servers and so on. So like there's no way like I could work on something for like I can actually quite confidently say I could do something. I could do more in 3 sittings of 4 hours than like 30 sittings of 1 hour each, even though it's less
Right.
than half the time. Yeah, because being in the zone really matters, I feel like.
Yeah, especially at the start, as in like when you don't have the base actually, like maybe once you have that base, maybe you can iterate over it in
Yep,
lesser
exactly.
periods of time. But when you're actually building the first version of the product, even though it's like very limited in features, I think that takes up a lot of bandwidth, and it's not possible to be doing this like just thinking of it. You kind of say it's not possible today, so maybe we'll postpone it tomorrow, and
Yep.
that's how you kind of so that's why maybe I think being mindful of that will kind of help you. Maybe keeping a Friday off, or maybe keeping a Saturday, blocking some time. That could be one way of making sure that you have enough time to actually make progress. Otherwise, just thinking about it's not possible to make the progress that you want to.
Yep, exactly.
Is it?
The 1 hour thing could work like once you have everything set up and like you want to make small tweaks, maybe to the content or like some of the
Yeah,
data you're sending and so on. But early on, it's not possible because like you're putting things together and stuff.
Exactly. And also it pays to optimize our workflows because the speed of iteration typically matters more than anything else when we are trying to build something, especially with the intent to ship. So optimizing workflows is very useful, and part of it is actually paper and pen planning. I don't know how others do it, but I prefer to always plan things on paper before I start sitting down and writing. It's just at the point by the point I start coding, typically it's just translating what's on either the paper or on in my brain to code. That's it. It just flows smoothly. That
Yeah.
probably can be done in 1 hour, but actually, starting the context switch takes too long. 1 hour is 1 hour. 1 hour is probably even doable, but half an hour simply won't work.
Right. Cool. I think, yeah, maybe, like just to summarize, like maybe having one block of, let's say, 3 or 4 hours in a week is better than having 1 hour every day. That's what, especially at the start, I think, that's something, until unless it's a very, very, a simple idea, maybe. I think that's
No,
something which, yeah,
plus
sorry.
doing an hour a day, right? You need to have like superhuman motivation to like get in there. I want to meet a person who can do that. Like it will be. Uh, so even like the product that I built, right? It's not that I'm passionate about. It's just I think I can like make money about it, and like you need to have a lot of motivation to come back to it like an hour a day. So I think what Faraz is currently working off of his bot, right, is just the high that he gets by people using it, feedback, like, I can do this and like it'll affect everybody's lives. So
Yeah.
that high is like killer, like if you have that, you can like really push yourself quite far. And then of course you have the trough of sorrow when like you need to actually work on it on a long haul, like you'll have like that dip, and you really need like a lot of motivation to push yourself for that. So yeah, I'm with these guys there. Like initially when it's there, you're like pushing yourself, and then it like peters off like later.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Absolutely agree with Saurabh. So the like two kinds of highs. One is just when you start, you get this kind of ignition. You are very energetic. You do lots of stuff. You want to do lots of stuff. And then once you realize that you need to build something that's kind of boring but necessary, things slow down. Or when your interest wanes, or when something else catches your interest, if you have somebody like me whose interest is very short term, it wanes, and that's the next dose of high can come when people actually start using it and provide feedback. For products for which early feedback is not possible, or where there is a high lead in time, it requires a lot more motivation. Even having time is not the issue. Like most of us have, uh, if necessary, we can easily carve out an hour or even probably 2 hours a day consistently. Our schedules are not that packed typically just by being remote workers. But sitting down to work is an entirely different thing.
yeah, yeah. Maybe, like blocking time on the calendar would, maybe, like just block 3 hours and, see what is the progress that you can make. Because otherwise, like, you're not getting paid for it. It's something which you're not very sure, this is going to work or not. So it's all working against you. Like it's very difficult to be, like after a hard days of labor, at the on the real job, on the paying gig. I think it's very difficult to translate the focus to something else. So somewhere maybe, we'll have to, maybe that's something we can discuss more offline, like what are the systems that we can use now. uh the last thing, which maybe, like otherwise, we can entertain more questions, but the last thing which I wanted to talk about is, how do you go about, showing it to the world? As in, do you, these days there's this, platforms like Product Hunt, Beta List, that there are, hacker hacker news if you're like more strong hearted. So so is that like, like how can you, maybe step your way to actual users using your product? Like what could be the process of launching, or maybe like, because what's the use of, like if you don't show it to the world? It's like, you could say that you did it for your own sake, but the the main I think motivation or the main high was that you wanted some, let's say, what's the word, I'm not getting the word, validation, let's say. That's the word, right? That what you thought actually means somebody to another human being. That could be a single person, but so how do you go about that?
I think Devansh had a very nice Trello board that he recently shared, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool. I haven't looked into it in detail yet, but like I might over time look into it, because right now I feel like from Reddit I got a bunch of users. I'm planning to do like a product hunt launch early next week. I don't know how many users that will gain, because like I don't know how many people on there play fantasy football. But even if it's like again 10 to 15 users, like they can tell their friends about it or whatever. Um, but yeah, like that is something I'm going to have to tackle. So maybe I'll have some more insights on that soon. But that's I feel like that's a good starting point. And apart from that, talking about it probably on Twitter, and then
Yeah, yeah.
maybe reaching out to people who can act as influencers, I guess, like people who have a following in that community, getting them to talk about it, getting them to use it, and so on.
Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe like one thing is where, like, finding out where your possible users are actually hanging out. I think, like, in your case it was Reddit, right, where there was already a subreddit for fantasy Premier League, right? So that's like a no-brainer for you to post your link to the product and see, get feedback. So different areas have different, maybe like if you do something which is related to teaching Elixir. I've come across this forum called Elixir Forum, which is like really active, and people would be like very, very happy if you are helping them to learn Elixir. So those are indie hackers as well. I think indie hackers is something which we did not maybe discuss, but that's something which will really help you. Uh, it's really aspirational, and the content there is very good actually. So
Actually, haven't like I've only signed up on India because I haven't checked it out. I've been meaning to for a really long time, but I
oh,
should probably get around to it.
cool. So anything else, guys? I think we are kind of like over time already. So any last things that maybe questions we could speak about. And do you guys have like some kind of, like, maybe like accountability, something? Like, I think in indie hackers I've seen this happen where they kind of like set of partners, kind of like, I'm building my own side project, you're building your own side project, but it's just that the two of us have like a quick stand up every day, and make sure that you're like moving in that right direction, even though it's like is that something which you have thought about, or already doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely benefit from it, like having a running partner. Like there have been times in which I have you rupees or 40,000 rupees, and you pay me back once I hit some milestone. So it's like basically you are buying your own services, that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, I think it's a good.
Think, cool. Any closing thoughts, guys? I think this was a very good discussion, and I'll try to maybe send the notes quickly as possible. But anything else that comes to your mind? I By the way, follow Peter Levels on Twitter if you want to be really super motivated like this guy. Ships like crazy, man. Yeah. Paresh, do you have any questions? Maybe you're on the move, but I just thought I'll ask you. Uh,
Yes, I'm in a Bangalore traffic.
I think your network is
So
very.
I don't
Yeah,
have any questions, but if I have any, I'll post it on Slack.
yeah. Sure, man. Sure. Cool. Then I think let's end this, and thank you all for joining in, especially Faraz. Thanks for your time, man. You could have gained 10 more users if you if you were working on some new feature, but it, it's very very kind of you. So cool, man. Have a great weekend and see you again. Bye.
Okay, guys, bye. All the
Bye.
best for us. Bye.
Yep. Thanks, man. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.